now by head coach Bret Bielema. I know a little bit of a step back from where you were the previous year, where you just had a fabulous season. We're early in your tenure still at Illinois. You're going into the fourth year. What did you kind of learn about last year, where maybe it wasn't quite where you wanted it to be, but as we saw, close to being really good, versus the year before where it really was where you wanted it to be, that you can take into this season?
You know, Dave, I think that stat right there, right, it jumps out to me. I lived it, right, so I knew it. But our players, you know, I think as this thing has evolved, our first year we were 5-7. Everybody was kind of excited around it. I wasn't, right, but I knew where to go. Then that 8-5 year, we were at 1.7-1, right? And then we kind of ran into a little window of Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan that lost 3 in a row, one against Northwestern, go to the bowl game, lose a heartbreaker to Mississippi State. And I think they just thought last year was going to happen. I think they, you know, for me as a head coach, I didn't recognize it soon enough, maybe the edge that we needed to have. And that's what we've been concentrating on, making us good at what we've been good at, which is tough, smart, dependable, and that'll hopefully propel us through those moments.
When you think about last year, the area that really struggled was the defensive side of the ball. You had been so good the year before, by some statistical measures, the best defense in America. I know that's kind of your bread and butter. That's where you made it on that side of the ball as an assistant coach. So how do you get back to kind of being that championship-level defense that you were 2 years ago?
Without a doubt, I think defensively, especially in the back end, we lost a lot of really good players. And on top of that, we had a Matt Bailey, literally one of our best defenders. We lost him in the very first play of the Pitt State game, which is the very first Big Ten game. Lose him for the season. Xavier Scott, torn ACL. So we had some players we thought were going to be there that didn't materialize. So the thing I'm excited about is those players are all back and they're better. Had a guy by the name of Tyler Strain who helped us over the last couple of years, has really had his best football. And then the other area that we concentrated on was the offensive line, right? I thought for us last year, a lot of it was defensive performance overall, and the offense, a lot of our struggles came from up front. We just need to get more players and develop the ones we had better.
You had some injuries on the defensive side, as you mentioned. You also had some on the offensive side throughout the year. How are those guys progressing, and what do you expect from them this year?
You know, Howard, you know this firsthand, but I've never had this in my career. We lost 4 of our top 5 running backs, you know, for a significant amount of time during that season. So although we had guys there, it was just never any consistency of the same person. So right now, everybody should be full go rodeo. We lost a younger outside linebacker last week, Mason Moragan, unfortunately, that we lost for the year. But other than that, we should be pretty much everybody that we expected to play to be there and be full go.
Full go rodeo, stealing that.
I like
love
it.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. And no eligibility for him.
I've never been in a rodeo or anything like that, but
Full go rodeo.
I'm all in. That's going out in week 1. I'd imagine when you were on your vacation in Hawaii, maybe you sat back and you said, "Oh, college football. What's going on here?" I'm curious your thoughts, because you've been in college, you've been in the NFL, you've seen this thing for a long time, Coach.
Yeah.
Where do you net out at the state of the game right now?
You know, it's kind of, I had a moment on stage where they give you 15 minutes, and I kind of said, I'm going to take what I can do here, right, and talk about the positive of college football. I mean, it's affected all of our lives, right, in different ways. I got a room full of 120 guys who I get to have daily contact with because of the game we love, right, and everybody talks about the negatives. I want to, you know, it's all from your viewpoint, right? What's your advantage? And my job is one of the best jobs I can ever imagine having, right? Like I say that all the time. But NIL, people talk about different things. Well, I saw NIL last year. Isaiah Adams, who was an offensive lineman that we took from Canada, his family had never seen him play a college football game. And because of the NIL opportunities, he made sure his mom and his sister from Canada were at every game, right? Mm-hmm. Those are things that I think we need to make sure we understand what's happening. We've had guys, Pat Bryant came back, you know, for this year, probably had options to go to other places, but I knew one thing we had that nobody else had, and that was going to be he was a semester away from graduating. I think we got to concentrate as people, as coaches. One of the things that is getting lost in this whole mix is the education factor, right? Like, it's been 2 years since I've been asked an academic question in recruiting, right? Because it's just getting pushed to the background. We've done so many things in our world of trying to make kids graduate, and I want to make sure that we keep that in the forefront as well.
Where's the balance in that when you talk about the academic side of it versus just what you can get out of it from NIL?
Well, I think the thing that's I flipped on the TV the other day, and it was you know, you watch those 30 for 30s, right? And you see these stories that happened 20, 30 years ago, and now they're coming to life in front of us. And I sit there and I think about 20 years from now, I think they're going to have a 30 for 30 on the drop in graduation rates. Because, I mean, when kids transfer, you lose hours. Yeah. Like, you can't transfer. And then now also you have a guy that transfers, he loses hours. Now he has to meet his NCAA standards, and they can become ineligible. And then the other one that I think gets lost in this whole mix is just the APR was such a huge point of consideration. You could lose bowl game status if you didn't have an APR. No one's even tracking that anymore, right? No one's even talking about it. So there's a lot of things that I love about our game. Some things that are getting frustrating, but it's still the greatest business in the world.
There might be a 30 for 30 on quarterback transfers as well. 46 projected starters of the 68 power teams in college football are on their second school, yours included.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you, as you evaluate it, what's one of the traits that's like a must-have for your quarterback this year to take his next step?
Well, I'm excited for Luke. I think experience breeds, success, right? And this will be his second year as a starting quarterback. I think the growth I saw from him from January till July, I stepped away in July, but the voice that he has, like a quarterback needs to communicate. I think the X factor right now is going to be the in-helmet communication. Like obviously ours on offense is going to be with the quarterback, on defense will be with the safety, but to now have a quarterback coach in your ear, hey, you know what, with a guy that maybe needs a little bit of, hey, we're in a 2nd and 8 here. Let's make sure it's not 2nd and 12, right? Let's make sure it's a 2nd and 4, manageable 3rd and 4. There's just things that I think the quarterback is now going to be able to hear for someone that it doesn't come natural to, that is going to make them play in a better way, and I think Luke could really benefit from that.
Are you familiar, Yogi, with city and country turnovers? Do you know about those?
I'm into them.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to learn something. This is going to be fabulous.
The difference to you between a city and a country turnover.
You ready for this thing in there?
When you're a D lineman, right, and you kind of just turn around and you see a ball, right? Like your first reaction is just to jump on it, right? But a lot of times that ball is in open space where you could scoop it up and score, right?
What kind of turnover is that, Brett?
That would be a country fumble, right? Which means there's a lot of open space, pick it up and run. But a city fumble means there's a lot of traffic and you need to just get on it.
Recover that thing.
So you should hear, with our guys, there's a ball laying on the ground, they should be on city or country.
And I use that to preface a question I had, and you'll learn Coach Bielema gives us incredible access. The reason that I learned that is because we sat in on a team meeting where we were talking about city and country fumbles and looking through different video of it. Last year, you guys, for whatever reason, turnover margin just was not where it had been the year before. And I know how much you emphasize it because I saw you talk about it with your team. I'm guessing you didn't emphasize it any less last year than you did the year before. So
our interceptions were way up.
Right. So do you just kind of subscribe? Do you subscribe to a randomness theory of turnovers, or do you think like there was something to why it dropped off last year and how you can get it back?
Without a doubt, we created more turnovers on offense. We turned the ball over more than we had in the past. And then defensively, the year before, we were in an astronomical. It was the most interceptions. We had 20-plus interceptions. Right. I've never experienced that. So there's a little bit of a common ground there, but I do think that sometimes they come in waves, right? And you really – I've been on teams where we can't create a turnover, right? And all of a sudden, one game you'll get 4, right? But I do think you can create them, and that's what we got to do a better job of, especially on defense.
To what extent, Coach, do you think a divisionless Big Ten affects Illinois? Whereas in the past years, you were looking to get here to Indy, and you had those other 6 teams in your division you felt like you had to be better than. Does it impact you in a positive and negative? Like, what do you think when you look at that now?
Well, I think we got to deal with what we have, right? So, like, again, the viewpoint is everything, right? I'm excited because the first time in Illinois football, we're going to play a team on the East Coast. 2 of them, actually. We're going to play Rutgers and Penn State out there, and we're going to the West Coast to play Oregon, and we have a 100-year anniversary game at home against Michigan that is special to a lot of people's hearts. So I think the reality is, right, that we have 6 teams this year that we've been in a rematch game with, 6 teams we've never played before, right? So it's a little bit of 50-50. I understand it. Listen, I'm a purist. I grew up in this league, but my first title, that first banner up over there was with the very first Big Ten championship game, right? And we won the second one, but the year prior to that, we won it in the non-traditional way of not a championship game. So Illinois is what it is. I'm excited. I do think that we got to play to our strengths. And we have 2 games guaranteed every year with Northwestern and Purdue. So I do like that those components stayed in place as well.
How do you think travel will affect the way you coach and the way you practice this year?
For us, Oregon, we're going to go out a day in advance, right? So we'll leave on a Thursday, which is a new thing, right? When I was in the NFL, a lot of times when we went west or we traveled more than 2 time zones, we sometimes would go the day before but stay the night after because you didn't want to fly 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. and have them screw up that next day as well. So there is some X factors there, but I tell you the one that everybody's, in my opinion, the use of in-helmet communication and the tablets now So it's not just pictures, right? It's video, right? And to have the ability to go to the sideline after a third down that either had success or failure, and to watch your pass rush, maybe why you didn't land it, or maybe why you didn't set as well as you needed offensively. Maybe you want to believe what the coaches tell you, but now the players, film don't lie. Right? Like when you see things on film, that's the truth, that's the reality. And to take those into halftime now, like that's going to create an environment of teaching and learning that I think is unprecedented. Our two scrimmages are going to be full-blown reality TV, because we'll have the in-helmet communication, the 15-second cutoff, and then obviously the use of tablets on the sidelines. And we'll take a halftime break just to learn how to use tablets at halftime.
Can't wait to see how that shakes out. All right, two quick players, because as the portal continues, you added some additions here late in the game. Terrence Brooks, DB coming from Texas, and Zachary Franklin, a wideout who I think can really go. Those two guys, what have they done to your program? They've only been there a few months.
Yeah, so we haven't been able to practice with them. We've been able to work with them. We've been able to see them. Terrence moves very well. All the things you saw on film when he was at Texas are there. What I've been impressed with is just the way he goes about his business. It was fun to recruit him. Actually talked with his dad, Chet, because Terrence was involved in finals. He didn't want anybody talking to him, so what Dad and Mom want was what we want. So we went 2 weeks of talking just to the parents, and I was hoping I was going to love the kid as much as I loved the parents, and that's been the case. So excited about him. And then Zachary, 40-plus college starts. 40. He's the most productive returning receiver in college football. It's not that sometimes obviously skill helps and the ability to make plays, but when guys have walked the walk already and played in, there's only one guy in our building that's played in a college football playoff game, and that's Terrence Brooks. Right? And that value, I think, is a very, very big deal.
Coach, you're playing Northwestern at Wrigley Field, and you were at Wrigley Field here recently, and Howard here got a chance to participate
what
in
is
the line.
going on here?
Too. Well, no, I just want to talk a little bit about
We've been talking about it for the last 30 minutes.
Well, because we have the Illini on, and it was Illini Day. I mean, we're not bringing it up when the Ohio State guys are here.
Listen, I don't believe that you're going – I think you're going to do something that I'm not going to like. But go on. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah,
I'm
you
going
are.
to ask you a little bit about your experience at Wrigley Field. With Howard Griffith, how he got chosen to throw out the first pitch rather than you.
That was an
and whether
decision.
I have sung "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" with him not once but twice.
It's true.
Twice. He's got a lovely singing voice.
I was sitting in my office. Brett Moore, as you guys know,
we know him well.
And said, "Hey, we're going to have a take me out or a Illini event at the Cubs game. Do you want to throw the first pitch?" I said, "Absolutely not, but I'll sing." And they're like, "Well, hey, we're thinking about someone. Do you want to do a player?" I said, actually, Howard's son Houston's not working for us, coaching our wide receivers. And I literally thought, hey, this would be kind of a cool father-son moment. Wants to see if Howard wants to throw out the first pitch. Didn't know his skill set, didn't know his ability level, but that's how it materialized. And it really became because I know that if you sing the 7-inning stretch, they're always going to boo you. But you got a chance to recover because it takes a couple. But the first pitch, you get one pitch.
That's all you get.
Yeah,
it's all on one shot, right?
It's a bit
I don't
of
know
a
how it
harrowing
actually went.
experience.
I didn't view it. I wasn't there, but I haven't heard anything.
Were you on the rubber? Did you go on the rubber or did you go front of the mound?
Rubber.
I'm just asking.
Former Division I athlete.
Yeah,
a walk-on, by the way.
Yeah.
Of course I went to the rubber.
Okay.
Except I didn't step on it. You don't do that. You don't step on the rubber.
Oh, really? I toed the rubber?
You shouldn't have touched the rubber.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Now,
they lost the game.
I was under the impression I got an entire at bat, so I think I brushed the guy back with the first pitch a little, as I recall. I tried to go a little low and inside.
Oh, there you go.
Right, and then I was going to go, outside corner. Yeah.
It's not about you, Rever.
But in all seriousness, the singing is
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's
when I first did it, 2006, they used to put you out on a stage and there was no balcony, no ropes, and I'm like scared of heights, so I'm like, holy cow, right? Like this is a different deal. So now you're spoiled. You get to practice with an organ guy.
Yeah.
You get to stand in a closed ballpark. I got to throw a hat. It's pretty live. I love it.
How do you feel about that game at Wrigley Field?
Excited. Again, we carry forward playing Northwestern and Purdue every year. Our game against them last year was a heartbreaker for us, right? And I think it's a huge game of respect. Got huge respect for Dave and what he's done, obviously in a tough environment there. I think it'll be a great one for our fans. It doesn't take a rocket scientist why Northwestern chose Ohio State and Illinois to be in Wrigley, and everybody else is going to play on in the practice field, right? I think they know the tickets are going to be in that stadium, so I'm excited. It'll be a great way to end the year.
Coach, I got to ask you, let's just say we come on back here and you're playing in this championship game. You guys win. Can we get you singing to the crowd? Because we see it right here.
If we get
Fight
here,
song. You probably team up with them, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll do it. If we get back here, I'll do anything that we got to do.
All right, lock it in.
Brett, you were talking a little bit earlier about the offensive line and that group needing to be a little bit better Give us a sense of how that group fit together in the spring, and then some of those additions. You went in the portal and added some guys, and how you think that group's going to fit together to what you need it to be.
I think the first thing is it's not just a starting five; it's a group of 10, players that make that. Because offensive linemen, you have what happened last year. We had some guys get injured, some guys that need to move around different spots. I had what I thought was probably going to be one of the best left guards in the country. I had to move him to right tackle. Isaiah Adams got drafted in the 3rd round, but Josh Kreutz is a mainstay for us. Josh just has grown so much in the last year. His ability to see the game is really good, but he plays with such a grit and a determination, and those guys follow him. We have 2 tackles that'll be new starters for us, but very impressed with what they did in the spring. They've started a lot of games at the schools they came from. Josh Getsky inside, and then Zy Chrysler. So we have a bunch of guys coming back that I think have played a lot of good football and will play good football too.
Well, we look forward to seeing them about 9 or 10 days from now.
We'll be
get
long.
you really early in the camp tour. Will be a ton of fun. Bret Bielema, always appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you very much. ILL.